Hello, it's Deborah from the attic. Hi, if you're new here, welcome. There are over 400 videos for you to catch up with on my channel, so please visit the playlist for journal making or card making, or if you're interested in my French life here, go and look at the playlist for my real French life, or if you're in a hurry, try the coffee break tutorial playlist. That will give you lots of quick ideas that you can enjoy and think about while you're enjoying a cup of tea perhaps, or a cup of coffee. Please subscribe, do hit the like button when you enjoy a video because it really helps me grow my channel and I appreciate your support. If you're a returning friend, hi again. I went shopping and I haven't actually found any real sort of craft stores in the region where I am in the southwest of France, but I'd heard about a shop that's got various branches all over the big towns called Action, as it said, A-C-T-I-O-N, and it's a sort of a homeware bric-and-brac store, but it's got a couple of rows in each, or a couple of aisles in each store where they sell crafting things, and they sell watercolours and watercolour papers and paints and cards and dies and stamps. Not a huge range, and it's a bit of a, they'll be in a big basket and you've got to kind of flip your way through everything. But I did buy some things and I'm going to show you what I bought, and I want to test them against some other brands that I have. These were inexpensive, and this is one of the things that I definitely want to talk to you about. So I bought some paints in this sort of block form and also in liquid form in bottles. I bought 3 sets of square envelopes. I bought 3 sets of standard sized envelopes, which for us in Europe means A6, and I've just measured them, and in inches they're 4 1/4 by 5 3/4, so it's just slightly longer than the standard American size. I also bought some little plastic boxes to put things in, because I've always got things that need to be put in boxes. But I thought what you might be interested in knowing is A, how they perform against their sort of competitor brands, and B, what the price was. And each of these sets of 8 cards was 64 € per packet. So that would be whatever the equivalent would be in cents, or in the UK in pence. So for that price, that's why I got 6, because that will only have cost me under €4. I mean, under €4 for 48 card blanks and envelopes. I've never seen them that cheap anywhere. So that was my first thrilling buy. Very, very excited about that, especially with Christmas coming up. And then I found these. Now, when I first picked these up, I didn't realise that they also included a little water brush. These sets, this set with, I think it's 6 colours, 6 watercolours. Each of these sets was €150 each. I mean, I was just staggered. And then I bought the liquid watercolours. Now, I actually don't still have the receipt, but from memory, I think these were about €3.50. So not very much money. And there are 5 pastel colour watercolours, liquid watercolours, and as you can see I haven't opened these, so we're going to go through that little voyage of discovery together, and I'm going to compare them with what I already have in my stash as other brands. Obviously I can't compare the cards, but a card base is a card base, but we'll have a look at those and just see how thick that cardstock is. So for my comparison with my liquid watercolours, the only other liquid watercolour I have is this one from Ecoline. And I don't know if any of the colours in here will be similar. This is quite a rich ruby looking colour. I've hardly used it at all. I bought it as an experiment because I hadn't used liquid watercolours and I was curious about them. So this is an experiment I haven't even experimented with yet, so I can compare it with that. The closest comparison I have for this set is this one from Coloro. I've had this a little while. I've used it quite extensively. I love the thickness of the ink, the paint, and I love how densely pigmented it is. I don't expect this to be as intensely pigmented because that's where the price is made up, or where the expense is in watercolour paints, is in the density and quality of the pigment. So I expect these to be lower quality than these. That just stands to reason. And for this set of the sort of pinky purples, the closest comparison I have, again, it's Coloro, and it's this set here, and the same rules apply. I expect this to be far greater quality than this, because also this must be about 10 times the cost of this, so I would certainly expect this one to be superior. But I'm going to get some watercolour paper and I'm going to test them out. Now I've taken the inks out of their housing. It's got nice little sections divided up for each bottle. I've put them on their side so that you can see what they are. Obviously normally I'd have them the right way up, but that's so that you can see what's happening with them. I've got a little brush. This is a Nuvo size 6 watercolour brush, and I'm using Arteza watercolour paper. I think their watercolour paper is very good. It's very well priced. It's nice and thick. I like that on one side it's smooth and on the other side it's slightly mottled. I apologise for the mottled light that we've got coming through. I've been trying to move the shutters around to try and prevent any glare. Not possible. It's a bright sunny day, and I kind of like a bright sunny day. I want to start with the Ecoline colour, so then we set down our comparison. And I guess you would normally drop that into a little ink tray. Not going to happen today because we're doing quick and dirty experimentation, but I'll try not to get too much water in there to dilute the colour. That's nice. I can see that a little will go a long way. I just dipped my brush in and that's what I got out. I'm going to put some clear water beside it just to see if I can make it run into the water. See what the pigmentation is like. Let's try this side. Okay, so we'll let that do its thing there, and I'm going to try the closest colour I have to it, which is this one. Again, I'm going to put my brush in fairly dry so I don't dilute the colour. And I don't know if I need to say don't do the way I'm doing it, because I'm doing this for speed so you can see. So, as expected, it's not as highly pigmented, and you don't get as much coverage. But otherwise, that's it's a lovely colour, it's a lovely shade. Let's put a little blob beside it and see how it runs into it. That's the most intense area there, so we'll just see how it reacts. And I'm going to go on and just swatch out the rest of those colours and see how they look. That's all of the colours swatched now, and as they begin to dry you can see the difference. So these, as expected, are not as heavily pigmented as this one. I'm quite relieved to see that the Ecoline colour is very clearly has more pigment in it, requires less ink to get this intensity of colour, and also the coverage, because we got loads of coverage with that one, whereas with some of the other colours I had to apply ink to my brush or paint to my brush 2 or 3 times to get the same size coverage, whereas with this I only needed 1 dip in the paint. Having said that, I think for the price, because these were about £2.50, £3.50, something like that, I would certainly buy these again. And if I go into the shop next time and they have a different set, a different colour of these, I will absolutely buy them, because if you wanted to make a nice simple background blob for a card, say, that you were then going to stamp a sentiment on it, why would you use your more expensive inks when you could substitute them for a cheaper paint? There is some movement in these as well, which is quite encouraging. So you can see where they've gone softer, where I've dropped in. I call it clean water. It's a wee bit gummy, but again, it does the job. So you can see that there is some nice differentiation where there is pigment. You can see that pigment moving into the clear water. So overall, I'm quite impressed with those, and I'd certainly buy another set. So next I'm going to try these metallic watercolour paints. I've used the watercolour pen that came with the set. I filled it with some fresh clean water, and I'm just going to see how this brush performs. Okay, it's got a nice point to it. It doesn't drag across the page, it moves across quite smoothly. It's quite nice. And I'm just going to give the paints a chance to release their pigment into the water by dropping a couple of little splashes of clean water into each box. I'll just give that a minute just to do its thing. I can see there's a cloud outside the window, and unusually I'm hoping that the cloud might pass over so that we don't get this sort of stippled effect with the lighting that we're getting. So I hope it doesn't detract from what I'm trying to show you. I think I'll start with the palest colour first, and I'll just mix this in and give it a chance to pick up as much pigment as possible. And remember, this set was €1.50, so I really don't expect great things. I'll be pleased if there's a little bit of a metallic shimmer and if there's a decent amount of coverage, but I don't have high hopes for it, I'll be absolutely honest. Okay, I was wrong. That is pretty good. That is better than I thought I would get. Wow. Let's add a little bit more. I have to work a little bit harder than I remember working with the Coloro colours in order to get an even coverage, but that is not too shabby. So I'm going to just use my little bit of cloth beside me to wipe off the excess of that colour before I go into the next lightest colour, which is probably this one. I'm going to work my way up to the darkest colours, just so I don't have to keep running away and cleaning my brush every 5 minutes. And again, that isn't too bad. I bought the Coloro because that was what was available. This set was all that I could find available at the time. I bought them when I was in the UK. But if I'm just using these paints to add an accent to something I've already painted with a high quality watercolour paint, I don't really need this to be an expensive brand. I just need it to do its job. And if the job is setting off a little bit of shimmer or adding some difference in texture, then I think those would do the job absolutely perfectly for me. And I wish that was available as a lipstick. That would be an amazing colour if that was a lipstick. Okay, so I'm going to set these to one side, and I'm going to compare them against the Coloro, and I'm going to use the same brush. I'll clean the brush off, and I'm going to use the same brush, so that then I've got a realistic comparison. I will only use the comparable colours, so I have a purple here, a sort of a rose there, and a peach there. I can see, I don't know if it will come up so well on the camera, but I can see that that pigment is richer and denser. I'm just going to clean off my brush. I'm going to try this one. So the coverage is smoother. I think I get greater coverage from these paints, whereas with these I had to apply maybe 2 to 3 times as much in order to get this equal sort of coverage here. So this is a lovely thick, dense pigment. I'm trying to distinguish between pigment and colour, but I can see that that's got a more intense pigment coloration than these ones have. But I would argue that these ones are more shimmery. They've got a little bit more of a glittery sheen to them. This time I've switched to the new brush that came with this set of colours. I don't want to contaminate my colours too much, and I'm going to drop in a bead of water into each of these little palettes, and incidentally these are removable, so I mean those things are always cute, aren't they? You're never going to be able to resist them. So I'll give the water a minute just to react with the pigment, and then I'll colour them all in. So that's all of my colours from my little cheapy set swatched, and I'm going to bring in the expensive ones. I'm going to swatch out 4 of these colours, so I'm just going to add a drop of water to these as well. Treat them in exactly the same way. I love this colourway, this is just beautiful. This is the last of the colours from the more expensive set. Again, there is definitely more pigment in these, but they're also darker. That's been quite interesting. So although these are better quality, give better coverage, and have better pigmentation, or greater pigmentation, I actually prefer the cheaper ones. They give me a little shine and a little sheen, and I'm going to hold this up to the light and just hopefully you can see the difference there. So that's been a very interesting lesson, certainly for me. It's always worth trying a cheaper brand. I'm not opposed to cheaper brands at all. I'm always up for a bit of experimentation. I'm really pleased that I wasted £1.50 on these. It was certainly worth it for the experiment, and I think for accenting my little pictures in the way that I like to with metallic paints, I think the cheaper range are absolutely fine. And even if you need double of the cheaper range in order to get the same coverage, if you bought 2 of these packs, you'd still only be spending £3, or €3 I should say, in comparison with these, which I think were about 11. So there's quite a difference, and don't be scared of the cheaper brands. Let's have a quick look while that dries. Let's have a quick look at the cards. Now with the cards, I'm expecting them to be a lower quality cardstock, a thinner cardstock. The envelopes are the same, but to be honest, envelopes aren't really a thing I worry about particularly. It's the card that I think is more important. And they're not bad. They're not bad at all. I don't think it says what the card... Oh, okay. So this is a 240 gram card, 240 GSM card. I'm not sure what the American equivalent of that is, and the envelopes are thinner. The envelopes are a 120 GSM, grams per square metre, but that's fine, because if you were making a card, this would be your base. This wouldn't be where you would put your design. This would be the base that would carry the design on the front and then flip out and be just an ordinary card on the inside, so they're fine. I want to look at the pearlised envelopes next. These are the pearlised cream envelopes, and I've just taken them out of the packet. I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of green colouring on that one, and a little bit here and here. It's very subtle, but it's there, and it means that the card is not completely solid colour. But if I turn it over, there's no green. So it looks as if it's gone through a roller process in the production, and some green has been left, some green ink or paint has been left on a previous roller, and it's just caught the tail end of these cards. So I can either do a design that will cover that up, or because these are also pearlised on the inside, I can turn the card this way where there's no problem, there's no green, or I can use this to cut out a frame and use it as a backing board, so then the frame would be the green would be covered up. And the cards, the envelopes, are also pearlised. They've got some indentations down them, but again, for something going through the post, I don't know how much that would be a problem. If you want something absolutely pristine, then it would be. but if not, then I think they'd be absolutely fine. So that's my haul video and comparison video. I would happily buy any of these products again and save myself quite a lot of money, and then save the good stuff that I already have for if I want to make something really, really special, or if it needs to have a really intense, thick pigmentation. But otherwise, these are great. So if you see anything that's sort of non-branded or cheap in any of your local stores, I hope this will encourage you to give it a go and maybe save some money. Thanks very much for your time. As always, thank you for watching. If you want any links to my channel or my Etsy shop or any of my previous projects, please click on the links below the video. And until we meet again, stay safe and take care.